Okay. Welcome to my presentation. Today I'm going to introduce DITA XML. My name is Stefan Eike. I'm a technical writer and work as a technical writer and information architect for a software company called DITA here in Hamburg, Germany. And in my spare time I also develop some DITA open source plugins in a team called DocTales. And I also study media informatics in part-time. The objectives of my presentation is to give a brief introduction into XML and DITA. Okay, the history is not a topic anymore. Then I show you the essential features of DITA. And explain why DITA is so different compared to Word or FrameMaker, InDesign or other tools. And at the end I compare the pros and the cons of DITA. So what is XML? This is a very short topic, but I want to make sure that everybody understands what I'm talking about. So XML is a markup language. It's a language to create new languages, and DITA is based on XML, so it's important to understand what XML is. So XML is it's a text format which is both human readable and machine readable, and XML has elements that consist of opening and closing tags, and these elements contain textual or other information. An XML document also has comments or attributes. So this is a short form of an XML element. You can see here that the element starts with a lower than character and ends with a greater than character. And yeah, it's a short form because the element opens and it closes at the same time. You can see this because the slash, which usually indicates the closing tag, is at the end of the element. So XML elements are not specified by a grammar. You can write your own grammars, and for writing a grammar, you can choose one of three popular schema languages. The most simple one is the document type definition. Further on there's an XML schema and relax-ng. All these grammar types can be used to create your own elements and your own structures. So how does an XML element looks like? So this is a sample document. This is not a DITA document, this is an XML document which represents a receipt. You can see here that the XML document has an opening tag and a closing tag. So the document has a tree structure, meaning that a single element is the root of the document. So the receipt contains a title and a list of ingredients and a procedure containing multiple steps how to cook sunny side up eggs. So this is basically an XML structure, and it's very important that you understand how elements and tags and all these stuff work together. So what is DITA? DITA is an information architecture for designing, writing, and managing, publishing many kinds of information in print and on the web. This is a definition taken from the DITA style guide for best practices. So DITA is an XML architecture, so it defines a lot of elements and attributes and how they work together. And DITA stands for Darwin Information Typing Architecture. So why that? Darwin is a homage to Charles Darwin, who has developed the theory of evolution. So the the name Darwin has been chosen in the because DITA incorporates evolutionary principles, specialization, adoption, and inheritance, and I explain that later what that means. So DITA consists of several information types. We decide DITA maps and topics. All these information types are usually stored in a single file. So you work with DITA on a file system, but you can also manage your DITA files in a CCMS or in a Git repository or whatever. A map is a DITA file which structures content. So you will see later what that means. And there are several other map types, for example, book maps, which are designed to publish documentation as books. There are several topic types, and each topic type has a very specific domain. For example, a concept topic is one of the most used topic types to explain background information, to explain a technical concept, for example. And the task topic is used to give instructions for the completion of a procedure. Yes. So DITA has hundreds of predefined elements, and all these elements are bundled in domains. So DITA can be used in all kinds of companies. You can use DITA to write technical documentation in a software company, but you can also use DITA to write technical documentation in a machine industry company, because DITA is very flexible and can be adapted to all kinds of use cases. And DITA can do this because all the elements are bundled in domains, and you can add new domains or strip domains out. And there's only a single rule for that, that specialized maps and topics and elements always base on specific base elements. So why should we specialize elements? We can create specializations to create more specific search, validation, filtering, and reuse rules, and to create an own information architecture which fits your needs. And specializations can be shared with others, so you can create a very flexible information architecture. To get a little bit more specific, so how does a domain look like? There's a domain, for example, called highlighting. A highlighting domain contains elements for highlighting text. For example, there's a B element, and the content of the B element is usually rendered with bold text, or there's an I element containing text which is rendered with an italic style. But maybe you don't want to use highlighting at all, because you want to keep all the elements in your information architecture semantical, so you can simply strip the complete domain out. And after that, you cannot use any highlighting features. So it's not like using Word. You cannot mark text and select a specific format to these snippets. You have to wrap everything in an element. And how the content of the element looks like is calculated by rendering later. There's another domain called software domain. The software domain contains elements that can be used to explain software. For example, commands, file names or file paths, system output, or if the user has to input something to the application, you can put the input in the user input element. So that's a very rough introduction. So how does a DITA project look like? A DITA project usually has a root map, and the root map contains topic references and assembles all the topics together to create a hierarchy. You can also nest a DITA map in a DITA map, and so you can create flexible chunks of information as you like, as you need it. So this is a very small, simple example. Here we have a DITA map containing a title and a few topic references. And as you can see here, each topic reference has an href attribute with a path to a DITA file. So this DITA map assembles all these topics and to a publication document. Now I'm going to show you how that looks like if you use the Oxygen XML editor. So as you can see here, DITA files are plain text files. You can, for example, edit your whole DITA environment just with Notepad. It would be possible, but it would be just too complex. So you cannot handle that. Here I prepared a simple project containing the DITA map. So this is the DITA map file opens in the Oxygen editor in the author mode. So here you can see the same structure of the map. And the same map is here opened in the DITA maps manager. This is the same file, but in a different view. And here you can, for example, pull topics around and change the order of the file. And then I can publish the DITA map content to an output format, for example PDF or web help. I explain later how that works, but as you can see here, the transformations are assigned to this project, and I can press this little button here, and after a few seconds the map and all the contained topics are rendered to a PDF file, which is very clean. So you can see here the PDF file has a table of contents with clickable links, and the PDF itself also has a table of contents. And this is a very basic web help output with my 3 topics. There's not much in it because the topic files are empty. I switch the language. It's easy. So why would you use something like DITA? DITA enforces structured authoring. It forces you to create a good document structure. You can it facilitates content reuse. So you can create chunks of information that you can reuse all the time. And because of that, you save a lot of time. DITA supports single sourcing. That means, as you have seen, the output of the DITA architecture is not stored in the DITA maps and topics themselves. So you can choose later if you want a web help or a PDF output. And because DITA uses a lot of, you can reuse a lot of content, you have to, you can reduce your translation costs. And DITA is extendable due to specializations. And you can create a very small DITA architecture on a single machine, like I have here. Or you can use a DITA architecture in a complex authoring environment with thousands of users. So it means that DITA is very scalable. DITA is also effective for collaboration. So I can work with my DITA files on a single machine or keep the files in a Git repository or on a CMS. Further on, DITA has a conditional processing feature. That means I can filter content, and yes, it can be converted to all major output formats. And it separates content, so topics, from context, so maps. And yeah, DITA is an open standard, which is not relying on specific tools. So if you decide to work with DITA, you usually have to buy an XML editor, because it's a quite complex task, but you don't have to, and you can choose another editor if you don't like the editor you have chosen. And it would just work because all the DITA files are standardized. So the following list shows companies who voted for the DITA specification. So DITA is the specification of DITA, the DITA elements and structures is maintained by the OASIS, and there are several companies who work together on the specification, and this is a list of the companies who voted for the latest DITA specification. And as you can see here, the companies are very popular especially in the IT industry. At the DITA Europe and DITA Open Toolkit Day 2016, oh, this is not correct here, SAP presented their DITA environment, and it's quite impressive. They have about 3,200 projects, more than 3 million DITA topics, more than 1,000 registered authors, and they create 60,000 outputs in 47 languages every day. So it's quite impressive, and as you can see here, it's very scalable. They use several DITA publishing servers around the world. Yes. So how is DITA converted to something else? There's an unofficial reference implementation of the DITA standard containing the grammar files and the processing. This is called the DITA Open Toolkit. The DITA Open Toolkit is licensed under the Apache Public License 2. So this is an open source, free software tool, and you would use this to convert your DITA files, for example, to PDF or HTML5. There are other DITA processors out there, but the DITA Open Toolkit is the most popular one. So it basically uses Apache ART, XSLT, and Java. So these three technologies are needed to achieve different tasks. The Apache Ant is a build management tool, so this tool decides how the processing goes. So XSLT is used for XML transformations to change the structure of the XML documents, and Java is under the hood used for complex calculations. So basically the DITA processing is that you give all the DITA maps and topics to the DITA Open Toolkit. And there's a pre-processing phase. In this phase, the common processing is done, and after the pre-processing phase, it's determined whether it's a PDF output or an HTML output, and then a lot of things happen. And at the end, you have an output document. So all this happens in the DITA Open Toolkit. And now I'm going to show you some more key features and examples of the DITA Open Toolkit and DITA architecture. So there's a mechanism called content reference. So what you can do with DITA is you, for example, can create database topics and pull information chunks from these topics to other topics. So here we have a DITA map containing a topic ref, which is pointing to a file called source DITA. This topic ref has a processing role resource only and the talk no attribute. This means that this topic is not rendered in the output. It's just used as a resource, and it's not displayed in the table of contents. The only topic which is rendered and shown is the target DITA file. And the target DITA file has a body element and a node element, and the content of the node is pulled from the source DITA file. So this is the source DITA file. It has a node element with the ID charge before use. And as you can see here in the target file, there's a path to the source DITA file. And here you can see the ID of the node element. Usually when you author your DITA topics, you would not work in the text view. Usually you would choose the author mode. And in the author mode you can display the XML tags in a full form, in a block form, in a partial form, or completely hide them. The editor has content completion features, so that you always are only allowed to insert elements who are allowed by structure. And I can conref, for example, the elements again using a reused content mechanism. So as you can see here, the editor helps you to reuse things. The problem of reusing things by conref is that you always have to go to another file. So consider if the only linking mechanism would be by relative links, that would mean that you have to go to a file, move directories up and down, but these file names and directory names, they may change. And if you, for example, have a lot of links in your architecture and you changed the file names or directory names, the links would simply break. So this causes a lot of trouble, and to solve these issues, you can use keys. Keys to go to other topics. How does it look like? So this is an example for reusing an element by key. This is our root map, and our root map contains a key def element, and inside of the key def element there is a keyword element. And what we are now going to do is to pull the content of the keyword element to our keyref DITA topic. So the result is that we use the keyword element here with the keyref attribute and point it to the key product that we have defined here on the DITA map. So this topic is rendered like this in the output. So using this keyref principle, we can simply extract the product name, in this case, from the information chunk itself. So that means we can reuse this topic at any time and change the product name by simply defining another product name on the DITA map. There's another mechanism called content key reference. The content key reference mechanism combines the content reference mechanism with the key reference mechanism. So this is another DITA map, and here we have again a key def element defining the key named source, and this key def element does not point to an element, but it points to a topic file called source. And the key def element means that the topic is not rendered, so it simply behaves like this topic reference. So this is semantically equivalent. So the attribute processing row resource only and top no is implicitly set here. So what we can do here is to pull something from the source DITA file by its key. How does it look like? The source DITA file is, again contains a node element with an ID. And the target DITA file pulls the content of the source DITA file using the conkeyref attribute using via the key. So we go to source, to the source key, and then pick the ID. So this does the same as the conref mechanism, but we don't need to specify the file name here. Because of that, if the file name changes, so for example source DITA is renamed, we don't have to change the content reference here. We just have to change the path to the file here on the DITA map. There's another reuse mechanism called content referent end. The content referent end specifies an element that is the last element of a content reference range. So what we can do with a with this mechanism, we can pull a range of elements. So, for example, here we have a source data file, and what I want to do here is to pull all the elements from the third to the seventh element to my target file. And I can do this by simply linking concurref to the third element, and here specifying the seventh element with the conref end attribute. And this is rendered like this in the output. I will show you this example in the Oxygen editor. As you can see here, we have the data map here. And if I open the target topic in the author mode, you can see that Oxygen here renders the content reference from the third to the seventh element. And I can also publish this, for example, to data map. And here in my data map, only the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh element are included. There's another interesting mechanism to decouple topics from each other. So what we can do in Oxygen is to insert links. For example, I switched the topic. For example, if I want to create a link from this topic to another one, I could simply use this mechanism. I can simply go to the next topic by file path. But if I would do this, I would tie both topics together. So this one and the one I referenced. So what would happen if this link topic is not part of my project? The link would simply break. So the relationship table mechanism strips out the links to other topics by using a relationship table. So what does it mean? Here in this example, I have 5 topics, 1 concept topic, 2 task topics, and 2 reference topics. And what I want to achieve is that my concept topic links to all my task topics and my reference topics, and all my reference topics should link to the task topics and to the concept topics. And I can do this by creating a so-called relationship table, which has this structure. And the rule, the mechanism is that all topics from this cell link to all the topics in this cell, and these topics in this cell link to all topics in this cell, and to all topics in this cell. In this example, we have a DITA map containing all the topic references, and here we reference another DITA map which contains the relationship table. And the relationship table contains topic references using keyref to the topics that should be linked. And if I, for example, render that to a responsive web help, you could see that this concept topic links to all the related reference topics and to all the related task topics. And the task topics link to the concept topics and to the reference topics. But there's no link in the topic itself. There's another mechanism called content reference push. This is the opposite of a content reference. So what you can do is to push a chunk of content to another topic. So this is, for example, helpful if you want to replace specific things and topics. For example, if you receive the topic itself from another party, for example, from another company or whatever, or to replace technical data in a data sheet. The mechanism works quite similar. So what we have to do is we have to push from the source topic to the target topic. And the source topic contains a paragraph element here with a conkey ref to the element we want to replace. And the action is push replace. That means we are going to the conref push target topic and replace the paragraph element with the ID replace me. So the content of this element is replaced with this element. You can filter DITA content using DITA var files. DITA var files can be passed into the build by specifying a property or by using an element. In this example, we have a map with a topic reference, and the content of the topic is filtered using this filter file. This mechanism is called branch filtering. So we apply the filter rules in this file only to this topic ref, so to this branch of the map. So in this file, the topic DITA file, we have two elements. One paragraph element with a filter attribute called platform, which has the value Android, and another paragraph element with a filter attribute platform and the value iOS. Then what we are going to achieve is to keep this element and to strip this element out. We can do this using this filter file. The DITA var file is itself an XML file containing a root element called var, and prop elements, and the prop elements decide what should happen with the elements with the filter files, with the filter attributes. So this file includes all elements with the platform attribute that have the value Android, and it excludes all elements that have the platform attribute with the value iOS. So this is my topic file, and I can I can choose a filter file in my transformation scenario. So that means I specify here that for this output, this filter file should be used, and then my PDF file only contains the paragraph element with the Android value. You can, as you see here, I have chosen to use the Android and the iOS values for the platform attribute, and I can use something which is called a subject scheme to specify the values for the platform filter attribute or other attributes. I can embed a subject scheme map using a simple map reference, and choose here that my platform attribute should only allow values that are pulled from the OS key. The OS key is defined here at the top, and all the values inside of this subject def element are allowed in the as values for the platform attribute. So, for example, OS, Android, Android 5, Android 6, Android 7, and so forth. So as you can see here in the text view, because the subject scheme map is referenced in my root map, Oxygen detects the allow values for the platform attribute, and if I use content completion assistant here, I only get the allowed attribute values. There's another feature, key feature called key scopes. So what I can do is to define keys in a specific scope of my project. In this case, I want to reuse the same topic twice and fill the keys in the topic with different data. So here you can see that I reference a topic called technical data and define a key scope called Galaxy S7, meaning that all my keys that I define here in this scope are not used in other scopes and other parts of the map. And here I reference the same topic again. This is the same file. And here I create another key scope. And I use another DITA map with key definitions here. This is the technical data topic, which is used twice in my project. And as you can see here, it's a simple table with table rows and entries. And the values in my right column are pulled using key references. So what we want to do here is to pull the device type or the operating system, dimensions, weight, and so on from another topic. In this case, we want to pull the product keyword from the database Galaxy S7 DITA map. And this keyword element will replace this one in the output. Oh no, this is the device type. And so forth. And we have another database DITA map for our second product, the iPhone 7. And here we define the same keys and ensure that the keywords are replaced. So this is the rendered result when we publish this DITA map. The technical data here from the Galaxy S7 database map, and here with the technical data of the iPhone 7 from the second DITA map. Okay. So as you can see, DITA editing is quite a complex and challenging task. So you have many pros and cons. The pro of DITA is, of course, it's an open standard. That means you don't have any vendor logins. You can switch your editor, your environment whenever you want. And it's adopted by the big players, by the big software companies. That means it's a major technology. You can use your DITA files in version control systems like Git. It's very scalable. You can start with a very small environment without any specializations and move later on to an enterprise CMS system if you want. The DITA Open Toolkit is open source. That means the only tool you have to buy is the Oxygen editor or another DITA editor. That means you can start with a very low amount of money. And it has a lot of cool features to create and reuse content. And you can batch process files with Apache Arnd or other tools. And it can be integrated into continuous integration delivery systems like Jenkins or Travis. That means you can use your documentation as code. So you can, as you would publish and compile a software, you can compile and publish your documentation itself. And you have some very friendly user groups on Google, Yahoo, LinkedIn, or Xing. But the cons of DITA are that it's very hard to learn. You have to learn a lot of things, very new concepts about how to create and write content. And it's XML, that means it's very verbose. As you can see here, this file contains a lot of XML stuff, but this is our only single part of text, so we have a lot of characters here, but only 5 containing the text, which is what we actually want. And you cannot use DITA without buying something. There are no tools, no open source tools available to edit DITA files, which are really useful. The customization of DITA is quite hard and complex. The default output, as you have seen here, is very ugly. That means you have to change a lot of things, and to change the output of the DITA Open Toolkit, you need to program. You need to write XSLT code, which is a programming language, to change the appearance of this document. So this is quite expensive and challenging. And there's no open source solution available for creating web helps. That means the only, if you use Oxygen, you have to use the web help output, which is shipped as a DITA Open Toolkit plugin from Oxygen. That means that you cannot simply use the web help plugin and the output on a Jenkins or Travis CI server to include this in a continuous integration system. There are only a few open source tools available, and the enterprise solutions and content management systems are very expensive. So you can, on the pro side, you can start very cheap. You can spend a few $100 to set up a DITA environment, but if you want to create a really enterprise solution, you have to spend thousands of euros, tens of thousands of euros for a huge system. Yes, and on the con side, again, the user groups are on Yahoo, on Google, and in the Oxygen XML forum. These are the most important groups, but there is no real community there, like Write the Docs, for example, for DITA. So it's sometimes very challenging to find answers. Yes. So what I also want to show you is this presentation itself has been published from DITA. So here I have a huge DITA topic containing all my DITA project with all my topics. And what I did here is that I simply conrevved the sample files that I shipped with this project. And here I have a transformation which transforms all my DITA files to the presentation itself and the website. Okay, the publication is still running. You can see here the DITA Open Toolkit is still working. It takes about 20 seconds to convert all these maps and topics to the presentation and the website. 30 seconds. And this is the same content rendered as a website. And what you can see here is that all my sheets are rendered as parts of this HTML file. And you can find all the sample data here as zip files and download them and look at the samples at home if you want. So what I'm going to do is that I will upload the presentation and the website to a public URL, and you can read and test and look at the samples later at home if you want. So if you want to start using DITA, it's not that easy to find a starting point. So because of that, our DITA development team collected a huge amount of links to the most important information you have to look at when you start using DITA. Very important tutorials. The most important one is learning DITA, and tutorials about specialization and so on. Okay, do you have any questions at the moment? I know it's a quite complex topic, and yes.
So, DITA has a very large set of syntax rules, right? How much of these syntax rules do you actually encounter in your day-to-day operation when you're writing DITA?
So all the key features, each key feature is very important for a specific task you want to achieve. And in this presentation, in this project, I use a lot of all these features, and yes, I use most of them. Yeah.
Okay, and there isn't a way around it, a way to, for example, subset the DITA syntax in order to create something more simple, which less technical people might be able to use.
You okay? You mean the syntax?
For example, creating constraints in the form or the hierarchy of the documentary you build.
Yeah. So the syntax is a very huge issue. It's a pro on the one side, and it's a con on the other side. It's a pro argument because you can do anything with it. But if you want to strip all the semantical information out, you can use something which is called, I have to switch the toolkits. An example here. Wait a minute. Currently there's something experimental. It's not finished yet. It's called lightweight DITA, which is much easier to handle. As you can see here, Oxygen renders it with clickable elements, and here you can simply add a short description, paragraphs, lists and tables without knowing all the syntax. It's more easier. What you also can do is to use markdown files. So you can, if you have the DITA map here, you can, for example, create a topic reference to a Markdown file, set the format to Markdown. Oxygen also includes a small Markdown editor. So if you're familiar with that, you can create list items like this, and it's much easier to use.
But is Markdown then also integrated into the architecture of DITA? So can I, for example, pull in refs into a Markdown file?
You can do it. There are a few limitations. For example, you cannot do concatenate, I think, or something like that.
Okay.
But what you also can do is to let, for example, other authors write Markdown files. You can link all these Markdown files in a DITA project and then convert the project to DITA. So you have a DITA to DITA conversion. So you convert the Markdown files and everything else to DITA and continue to work with your new DITA files. So this makes it a lot of easier if you have authors who are not familiar with this technology. Yeah. Any other questions?
When you convert those Markdown files, will that also create IDs? So you can reference into that?
ID attributes? I'm not sure. But usually a topic may have IDs here at the root elements, but usually you don't care for them. Mostly they are created automatically, but you don't need to work with the ID attributes inside of the topic. It's more important to work with keys, and you define the key for the file itself on the map. So what I can do here, I can define a key for my Markdown file here. So I don't care for the ID actually.
That's when you address the whole topic, but not if you address a section within it.
Mm. Yes.
For example, for some push replies or.
To be honest, I don't know, but if you, I would recommend if you want to point to elements in a Markdown file, I would recommend to convert it to DITA. So if you just want to use a lot of many Markdown files in a project, I would not use DITA as a container for all that stuff. There are other technologies that are better for this. Okay. So if there are no other questions, I thank you for listening.